Happy Friday, everyone! Welcome to the Confidence Lounge Happy Hours. So this is something that I do every once in a while when I have this special guest coming to join me, having a great conversation. So I kind of want you to close your eye and just imagine that you are sitting at home, somewhere comfortable, having your drink and cheers, and we're having a conversation. So tonight, I am actually just beyond happy because we actually connected last year during the pandemic, but we keep life keep happening, so we keep missing each other. And I apologize for those of you who've been waiting at 6 o'clock because I had to take care of some cat issues, and now I am back. So thank you so much for coming in live and joining me here at Lounge. So today I'm really honored to have Helen Morris, who is a certified emotional coach and body coach based out of Rotorua, New Zealand. And it's a great place because a couple of years ago, I had the privilege of visiting New Zealand because of one of my friends actually lived in New Zealand. So I did a whole tour, and I remember Rotorua is actually a place where you can actually enjoy a hot spring. There's a lot of active volcano that's still there. So Helen can tell you a lot more about New Zealand. But here's the story about Helen. She came across the healing modality after a tragic losing of her 18-year-old daughter. When I first reached out to Helen, and I rarely reach out to anybody, on Facebook in terms of asking someone to come and be a guest speaker. But she was she caught my eye because her story was really something that really touched my heart. How do you lose someone so dearly and so deeply at 18 years of age? She lost her daughter due to a motor vehicle accident in 2017. And prior to that, she worked in the healthcare sectors, and there's a lot of accomplishment that she had done. In 2012, she was nominated for the Leadership Award for her contribution locally and nationally to a program that she had developed. And I don't want to take up too much of her time because I really want you to meet this amazing, courageous woman. So without further ado, let's welcome Helen. Hi, Helen.
Hey, Michelle. Hi. I am so happy to finally connect with you. And I didn't know that you'd been to New Zealand and, in fact, been to Rotorua. So, there's something. So, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. And without the internet, this connection wouldn't be possible. And I love Rotorua.
Yes, it's fantastic. I only just moved back here after we'd gone out of lockdown in New Zealand. I was living down in Hawke's Bay, which is another beautiful place in New Zealand, and was about to move back up north when the lockdown hit, when the pandemic hit. So I had to wait a few months out for that, and then I got to move up in about May last year, so nearly a year ago now. And so it's good to be back here. Like you say, we have many, many hot springs because we have a lot of thermal activity, a lot of geysers around the area. And it's a very, very cultural place. So it's fascinating. If you come to New Zealand, a must place to visit.
I sure will take your word for it because and I will take you on that because I am actually due to travel. I am due to visit a place. So definitely New Zealand is on the top of my choice.
Yeah. Look, I live in New Zealand and I still love traveling around this country of ours. It's just got so many hidden treasures. And seriously, it's a great place to come. It's a long flight. Don't get me wrong. It is a long flight, but it's worth it.
Totally worth it. So Helen, I don't want to open up like the can of worms, but I think it's the elephant in the room that we need to talk about, we need to address. And I think coming out of pandemic, I know a lot of many of my friends, they also have lost their loved ones, either their parents or their grandparents or something that they have lost and that they held dearly to their life. So with you, it was your daughter.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about your daughter?
Oh my gosh, she was my only child, and and I was an older parent, so I didn't have her until I was 35. And I tell you what, she changed my life upside down and sideways. She was this little human dynamo, and she was so full of personality, and she was sassy, and she had a strong will and a strong mind, and she was just this incredibly beautiful soul who challenged me on so many levels, but gave me so much pleasure at the same time. And actually, she enabled me to grow as a person because many times, she would say, Mom, you can't say that to me when you're doing it yourself. You can't be a hypocrite. And I was thinking, yeah, you're right. So yeah, I did do a lot of changing and I just embraced this beautiful girl. She was very sporty, she was larger than life, and she had the most gorgeous smile. Used to just light up the room. So, yeah, that was my girl. And I sadly lost her in 2017 in a motor vehicle accident.
How did you find out?
Well, actually, now this is a really bizarre thing about life. Is that we had only just shifted into a new place to live just the weekend beforehand. So we shifted in on the weekend. Her accident was on the Wednesday. And so I was running late from work. And so I quickly gave her a call because I didn't know whether we were going to meet at home or in town for her to then carry on to work, just to
Mhm.
have a bite to eat. So I spoke to her, and she had actually gone over to Napier, which is only about half an hour away from us. And so I said, okay. So she said, I need to meet at home, Mum, because that's where my uniform is. So I'll come home. And she said, and by the way, check out my room. I've just set up my room. It looks awesome. And I'll see you soon. And, I don't even know if we said, I love you. I probably did. But, we just had this beautiful conversation and I went home. And then I just had this feeling about 15 minutes after I got home, and I went and looked at the clock and I went, where are you, baby? I just had this horrible feeling like I needed to go and find her, but I didn't know which way she was coming home. So the next thing I did was, obviously tried to call her. No response, no reply. So then I phoned a friend of hers who I knew had her phone location on her phone. So she didn't pick up, so I left a message, but I was crying. And like I really knew something had happened. And I don't cry very easily. So I was crying. And then I then phoned the police, which I just don't do anyway. So I phoned the police and, they said, oh, well, we'll look into it. And they said, where's her location? I didn't know at that stage, but her friend had tried to call me, then texted me through the location of her phone. And I didn't have my glasses on and I couldn't see it. So then I eventually managed to sort of work out, the location of where, her phone was. And I said that to the police. And they said, one moment, and all went silent. And that was not a good sign either. And I went, oh, no, 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 no. And then they came on and said, we can confirm there's an accident, but we just need you to stay where you are because actually we've just closed the road for a bit. And I got off the phone. I went like heck. And then I just decided to investigate further. And actually, I phoned the hospital. They weren't expecting an ambulance. So then I Googled, and within the hour, it was up on Google, and it had the headline "Fatality in Fountain Road between a truck and a car." And I just knew, I just knew that that was my babe, that was my gorgeous girl. So that's how I found out. But the bizarre thing was that I knew right from, more or less when it had happened.
I'm sure as I'm sitting here and listening to it, I I can imagine that feeling of, number one, you didn't know where she was, so you probably were really worried, and number two, you found out you were able to locate her, and that feeling, that anxiety, that anxiousness, I can only imagine what that feels like from a mom, from a mother to a daughter, or even from a daughter to a mom.
It's the most, well, like we always had this super close connection, which I was so, so grateful for. But like you say, it's the most unimaginable feeling because it's just so instinctual. And I actually found out afterwards that her accident happened 2 minutes after I'd spoken to her. And I didn't realize at the time that she was actually traveling. I thought she was about to come home.
Mm.
And but it wouldn't have made any difference because she knew that I was calling. She had this, distinct tone on her phone for me, and she knew she was running late. So we were both in that same situation. And sometimes I just think it's meant to be. I look back and I could have taken that two ways. I could have thought, oh my gosh, I caused her accident, but I didn't. You can actually travel a long way in 2 minutes, and I chose instead to look at it how grateful I was that I had that conversation with her. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know,
And how did you move forward? I think that's one of the struggle for many people, especially coming out from pandemic. If you have lost something so dearly, um, how do you move forward in life? Like, where is hope?
well, I guess because I had this deep knowing, I knew that there was another level to all of this. It's like she definitely was talking to me. She gave me this checklist, and it was her ticking everything off. And I was going, no, baby, you still had so much life to live. But it was almost like her saying to me, Mom, my time here is done. I've done what I needed to do. And I always knew from when she was first born that she was an old soul. And so it's just a series of things that happen in life that sometimes all come together and connect. And for me, that connection was that there was something much bigger than I realized or I knew. And I guess knowing that helped me because as heartbreaking as it was, and believe me, there is no pain to describe what it is like when you lose a child. Um, but knowing that her time here was done enabled me to actually look at it in a different light. And what I decided to do was I decided that as heartbreaking as it was, I was going to honor this beautiful girl who I was blessed to have in my life and who graced my life. And so I was determined that I was going to make her proud of me. And that wasn't easy because, you go through a roller coaster, you go through the darkest of times. But I kept just saying, okay, what am I grateful for? And I would have to say to you, gratitude was the number one thing that kept lifting me back up, was remembering what I was grateful for.
Mhm. Yeah, that's so beautiful. I,
Mm,
I think just remembering what we already have
yeah.
and what's available to us, it really helps to not so much covering that wound, but just keep it warm and keep it lighthearted.
Yeah, and that's it because, when I started thinking about those types of things, she was such a character. She would always call me a dork. She goes, "Oh, Mum, you're such a dork," because I used to do silly things. And when I did something like that, I could hear her saying that to me, and that would make me laugh.
Yeah.
And I would cry in one moment and be laughing in the next when I, thought about her and thought about what she would be saying to me. And actually, I'm very, very lucky because I could actually hear. I didn't know whether I was actually hearing her, but I could hear these conversations of what she would be saying to me. And it was only when I went to a medium a bit later and she confirmed to me that, yes, that was actually Tao talking to me. So, yeah, it confirmed to me, all these beautiful things and this connection.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I was very lucky. And look, everybody experiences grief on so many different levels. So this was my experience, but I know it's very, very hard for somebody perhaps listening who didn't perhaps have the same sort of connections that I did or experiences I did to be able to move to that place as quickly as I did.
Mhm.
But that was just a decision I made in my head, and that's what got me up each day. That's what kept me going. And don't think for a moment I didn't experience. I would have these times where I would be sobbing my heart out, just wanting this beautiful, gorgeous girl back in my life again.
Yeah.
But I just knew that I just learned to know that she was with me in a different way.
Yeah. It's so beautiful. And one of the things I hear people, a lot of people who's not familiar with how to grieve or the proper way of grieving and healing
Yeah,
from the grief, they keep telling people, "Oh yeah, you'll get better, you'll get over it. Your life goes on, just move on." It's not as easy as what it seems, and it's not easy. You don't get over someone who's
no.
happened in our life, right? So you never get over, just get
What
over.
how I think it's best described is that you learn to live a new normal. Like as soon as my Tal, that's my daughter's name, Tal, as soon as she passed, I knew my life was never going to be the same again. And actually, there was some freedom in that because the worst had happened to me. So I decided that I was never going to worry about what people thought about me or just worry about all that little stuff. It just did not matter anymore. The worst had happened to me, so bring it on. I could handle anything. And there was a great freedom in that. But the other thing is that people need to find a way that works for them, about coming to understand their new normal, because it's different for everybody. And for some people it's journaling, for other people it's they for some people it is living in that grief, you
Mhm.
know because to them that signifies the degree that they love them, and they can't express that any other way except being in this deep despair, this deep grief that
Mhm.
symbolizes their loss for them. And who's to say that's right or wrong? I just think that everybody does it differently. And I'm on the other end of this spectrum. I just chose to accept very early on and to move forward very, very early on. So that helped me. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of moving forward, you are in an emotional, sort of an emotional and body code.
Yeah.
So tell me more about the emotional code and body code. What is it?
Well, this came to me. Now, this is the power of allowing things to happen for you, because this is what my towel brought to me. There was one day I was traveling to a place called Hawke. It's this beautiful beach, and it's just got such a beautiful, calming effect about it. And I was going to spend a week there, and it was about 4.5 hours in the car for me. And so I downloaded all these podcasts randomly. And one of the podcasts was The Emotion Code by Dr. Bradley Nelson. And so I was listening to it and I went, wow, this is almost too good to be true, that you could actually identify emotions and release them from your body. So I listened to it again. And then when I arrived at the beach, I decided to download um, you know, uh, the free app that they had with it. And I taught myself how to muscle test. And within 3 days, I kid you not, I had the most calm, peaceful, strong feeling about me. Now, to bring some context around that, I have lived a life that's been pretty tough. I grew up in a very, very traumatic home. I had a very traumatic childhood for me. I was a hypersensitive child living in a house where there were no empaths. And so they always thought I was a little bit strange, a little bit weird. But I took on everything and I became a perfectionist, and I got very sick very young. I had chronic fatigue when I was 20 and severe Crohn's by the time I was 30. Was in and out of hospital. I had a lot of health issues. Now, when I got hold of this modality, oh my gosh, it was like I didn't know this person. I have become simply by using this technique of the emotion code. So much so, I took myself off to Utah to meet this guy who developed the system because I really wanted to know that, he was reputable, that there was, that I wasn't going to get caught up in something because it had such a profound effect on me. I wanted to learn how to do it and to help others. So yeah, the Dr. Bradley Nelson is amazing. I met his wife Jean as well and his son, and they're just beautiful people. And he again had the idea of just wanting to help people in the best way he knew how. He was gifted this, so he was sharing it. So I became a certified emotion code and body code practitioner.
So I think I'm a kind of person who needs a little visual. Is it
Okay.
okay if I ask for a little demo
Yeah,
so I can better
yeah,
understand what that
definitely.
process is like?
Yeah, it's most definitely. So the easiest way to know how effectively it works, I want you to think of Reiki, and you know how people can have their hands above you and they can tap into your own energy.
Mhm.
Everybody has their own unique energy signature. So I can work on people right across the world, like you here and now, Michelle. So what I do is I tap into your energy. And once I do that, then we find out an area that may be causing you discomfort, if you've got pain anywhere, and then we can work on that. So if you want to give that a go, we can do that right here and now.
Let's do it.
Okay. So, what I'm going to do is just take 10, 15 seconds. I'm just going to sort of tap into your energy, and I've got your permission to do it. I never work on anyone without their permission. And once you've got that, then you can freely tap into the energy. So just let me do that right now. So, okay. So what I've asked is also for you to be beautifully protected in a pure white light, so you can only feel love and above. I've asked for your heart to be filled with love as I tap into your energy, and I'm going to muscle test now. Let me get in front. So I'm just using these two fingers to muscle test. So this is a yes. And this is a no, okay? And so
Mhm.
very quickly, I just ask your subconscious various questions as I so I'm just going to first check that am I, have I tapped into your energy, Michelle? Yes. So that's a very strong yes. So I know that I've got your energy, that I'm tapped in. So I'm going to act as your proxy, okay? Because I can't muscle test on you directly. So I will do it via me. Okay. So that's what I've just done. So anything that's uncomfortable for you at the moment?
My left shoulder.
Your left shoulder. Okay. So what I've got is I've got an app that I'm just going to tap into, and I'm going to put my glasses on because
Uh-huh.
I can't see very clearly without them. So let me just do that. So I've got an app that I use, and this is going to just let me very quickly just go yes or no, left or right, and we're going to work out. So, and as we do this, I'm just going to take some notes as well. So we just keep track because sometimes we go down different levels. So it's your left shoulder. How would you rate the pain at the moment from a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most pain, 1 being the least?
I would say it's a 3.
About a 3. Okay,
Mhm.
fantastic. Now, anything can cause anything, okay? So what we're going to do is have a look very firstly at if there's any emotions that are affecting this, okay?
Mhm.
So are there any emotions affecting this? I'm getting a very definite yes. So I'm just going to go through more than 5, more than 10, more than 15, more than 20. No, so between 15 and 20, I can narrow it down. 16. Okay, so we've got 16 emotions. Okay, so I've got a chart of 2 columns with 5 emotions in both columns. So we've got a range of 60 emotions that we can sort of tap into. So I'm just going to go down and ask now whether it's in more than 2 rows. No, it's not. So it's just in 2 rows. And I'm going to find out which rows and then I'm going to release them and I'll explain that. So is it in row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4, row 5? Row 4 and row 6, okay? So now what I'm going to do is, and everybody does this slightly different depending on how they've been taught in that. But what I'm going to do is your fingers are magnetized. I haven't got my big powerful magnet at the moment, but your
Mhm.
fingers are magnetized. And so what you can do is use your governing meridian, which runs from the base of your lip here up over your head, and it runs down the right down to the base of your spine. So when
Uh-huh.
I go like that, what I'm doing is releasing the intention, okay? When we find that and identify that emotion, we can very quickly release it, okay? So I'm
Mhm.
just going to ask, do we need more than 3 swipes? No, we don't. We just need 3 swipes, okay? If there's something really powerful, then we can go and use 5 or 10 swipes to release it. Okay. The other thing I want to know is that is there any particular emotion in row 4 that we need to know about? So, nope. And what about row 6? No. But I can identify any major emotions once we get there. Okay, so let's do this. So let's go into row 4. So what I'm going to do is just go through them and release each emotion, okay? So I'm going for A1, for A2, for A3, for A4, for A5, for B1, for B2, for B3, for B4, for B5, 6A1, 6A2, 6A3, 6A4, 6A5, 6B1, 6B2, 6B3, 6B4, 6B5. Okay, so I'm going to check. Have we released all those emotions that we had? Yes. So I've released them. Let's just find out what the key ones for you were. So, so first of all, in row 4, there's anger. Okay, so there was probably a little bit of residual anger there. Now, this can come. You can have anger and not even know you've had anger. So this can come right from a very, very young age. And if you
Mhm.
want, I can identify where this particular anger is coming from. Would you like me to do that?
Sure.
Okay, so can you whisper in my ear how old you are now? Or no?
I just turned 47 this year.
47. Oh my goodness, I would never have picked that. Ah, you're great. Okay, so let's just see. Was it before 25? No. So let's just see. Was it before 30? Yes. So I can go between 25 and 30, 26, 26. Okay. Okay. So what happened around 26? So is it to do with work? No. Is it to do with family? So something around your family happened when you were 26 that made you feel very, very angry, and you probably tracked that anger inside of you. And do you need any more? Do you want me to find out any more? Because sometimes it will just come to you. You'll remember something,
Yeah.
but but do we need to really know the cause of it? Quite often, no. Some people like to know everything about everything, but
Mhm.
once we've released it, the good thing is that it's just released. Okay.
Mhm.
So that's a good thing. So there definitely was anger there. And I'm just going to go through the other ones. Uh, and so taken for granted is another one. So have
Hmm.
you ever felt like you've been taken for granted?
A lot of time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I'll hit on things very, very quickly because yeah, you'll feel that very strong energy. Yeah. So and again, we can, delve down into it, but I'd rather do that. We can do that privately if you like. So
Mhm.
let's just have a look in row 6. So there's also humiliation there. So perhaps there have been times in your life where you've been made to feel less than you should, be that you haven't, yeah, you've been embarrassed and humiliated.
Yeah.
And there's also been a longing there. So I pick up a longing to be perhaps a way or a different version of you than what you
Mhm.
were, perhaps, and overwhelmed. So there have been times that you've been hugely overwhelmed as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And has there been times that you haven't been made to feel worthy? Have you felt unworthy sometimes?
Yes.
Yeah. Like, don't worry, that's coming through very strong. But that is very common that,
Yeah.
and honestly, like, there are ways that we can bring it through, just from experiences we have,
Mhm.
or we can also have it come through in our DNA. So, what I want to quickly test for now is, have you got any inherited emotions? And yes, you have around this. So, you've got one here in particular. So, let me just go and work out which one that is. And so that's an A5. So I've got fear. So there's a fear, and let's see where that fear has come through. And that's come through on your mum's side.
Mm.
And is it her mum? Her mum? And is it her mum? So it's come through a female generation line. And let's see how many generations it goes back. Okay, does it go back more than 10? Yes. Does it go back more than 20? No. So 11, 12, 13, 13. Getting good. So a lot of your generations have been carrying this fear, okay? And that may have come from an event that happened way back in those initial generations. And it was so strong that it's just constantly passed down through the DNA, okay?
Yeah.
And what we actually don't realize is that sometimes we can be fearful without even realizing why we are fearful. And that's because when we inherit stuff, when we get the right situations, that will just activate it and turn it on. So that's how that works. So let's go and release that, okay? So once it releases from you, it will also release from the generations above you and out to the side of you. And if you had children, do you have children?
No.
No.
I have a
If you,
cat. Yes, my cat is my cat.
if you did have children, it would also release down through those as well. Okay. Not so sure about your cat, sorry. Okay, so let's just go and release that now. So I'm just going to do 10 swipes and that's going to release it. Okay, so is that released? Yes, it has. How are we doing for time? Because I can certainly.
We're good. We're doing good, but I don't want to take up all of your time because I think this is a great demo for people who are interested and reaching out to you because I can tell you my left shoulder has been bothering me for a while and it's always been there.
Yeah.
And it's always like just in that one single spot, no matter how much time or how many time I rolled it out, it will just come back in. And it's a very dull type of sensation in there. And when you say anger, surprisingly, I had someone else who told me about anger in the past. I did a past life regression, and part of the emotion that show up was anger.
Mm.
And so I die very angrily or
Well,
having that
you
resentment.
the same thing happened to me when I had, there's a Facebook group and you can just put your photo across and, people tell you what they see.
Yeah.
And the first comment was like that I had anger and resentment. And I was going, jeepers, I don't feel, like I feel like I'd done a lot of work around that. But they were right. There was, when I went and checked it out and did that, I was going, yeah, there is still that anger and resentment, and especially because I was such a yes person. So I used to often say yes and then go, oh, what's this, and be really annoyed at both myself and at other people, because I always ended up doing all the stuff I didn't want to be doing. And that's
Mhm.
how it manifests in our life. And we don't even realize we're doing it. But what happens is that, each emotion has its own frequency. And when you aren't able to process it properly, when you repress it or just, swallow it down, what happens is that it goes anywhere in your body, and it's usually an area where you've got a weakness, and
Mhm.
it's like a vibrating ball, and then what it does is it causes unrest in the tissues it's surrounding. That's why you can get that pain and irritation and things
Mm.
like that. And if you don't resolve it, you can just keep attracting more and more of it, because once you've on that frequency,
Mhm.
then like attract like, and so you can get more of it. So that's why you can just keep getting, lots of that. But once you're aware of it, you can actually, stop that from happening. So, and I know for myself, like, honestly, I am 1,000% better than what I ever was health wise. So Yeah, I swear by this stuff.
Yeah.
And I've
I can
tried
tell you're
everything.
passionate about it, and that's the whole reason why you got certified, right? And you
Mm,
travel from New
yeah.
Zealand to Utah to actually meet the guy who invented it or who created it.
Yeah. I'd never heard of it, and I'm only probably one of about, I don't even know if we've got more than 5. We might have more than 5 practitioners, but certainly it's not very many here in New Zealand. So it's
Mhm.
quite a new modality over here that people don't really know very much about. So
Mhm.
most of my clients are from overseas.
Yeah, yeah, and it works great because it actually allows you actually spreading more love to everybody.
Yeah.
And I know now that you have something else that you're spreading the love to everybody. What did you
Okay.
start it?
Just just before we go into that, move
Yeah,
your shoulder around and tell me how it feels.
it feels better. It feels lighter.
Yeah, because there's probably a little bit more stuff that we could work on, and
Yeah,
that I can do that on you, but definitely that's how it works. You can instantly notice that pain levels will go down.
yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah,
a lighter. It's a
yeah,
lot lighter. Yeah.
yeah. And it's good for, like, people that block a lot of tension in their necks, or, anybody with pain anywhere, actually, it works really well for. So, my other passion, what have
Your
I been
other
doing?
passion, your passion that you started during the pandemic.
Oh my gosh. So, this is really brave for me because I was never one to put myself out in front of people. I would never have posted pictures. I didn't even like taking photos of myself, let alone putting myself out there.
Yeah.
So I have started a podcast, and it's called The Beautiful Side of Grief. And this has become my passion. I look, I feel like I was gifted with this unique experience in losing my beautiful girl. And I feel that she's guiding me to help others in their grief process. So, what this podcast does is that I want it to be able to have a really diverse reach. So, I interview people from all different aspects on the grief spectrum, those who are at the coalface supporting others, right through to those who are facing it and have been through that themselves. And I speak to people that have had near death experiences. I speak to an author who, talks to people on how journaling can help with grief and get those emotions out and help you cope with that. I speak to a medium on signs from our loved ones. I speak to, a beautiful mum who lost her 20-year-old daughter to suicide, and she's the most strong and courageous person. I've spoken to people. Oh, Jonathan, he shared his story of going through his little girl, who was diagnosed with, brain cancer, and that journey, and eventually losing her to that. And it's just how these people have managed to cope and get through that, and how you never know where this journey is taking you. So it's not just to be a Debbie Downer on you. You don't experience grief just because, somebody's saying, your life's been too good so far, we're going to give you something to test you. It's more about sometimes there's something bigger at the end of it all. And I know for Jonathan, when he was going through his journey, when he went to file his tax return after losing his beautiful wee girl, who was 4 when, she lost her battle, he found out that somebody else had taken her identity. And so they had to do a manual tax return. So that enabled him to then campaign and have the law changed so that these little children's identities couldn't be stolen. So, and what an amazing thing that was to have happen. And, other people who are just so inspiring by the sheer courage and grit that they've managed to be able to get through the journey of losing their loved ones. And I spoke to another guy who had been in the pit of hell when he got sucked into the whole drug cartel culture back in, about 20 years ago, and how he lived with so much shame and guilt, and
Mhm.
how he's been able to move on from that and help others move on from that. Because that's a thing that people get stuck in. Sometimes when they lose their loved one, they feel so guilty. If only I had, or if only I could have, or if only, you know? And actually, sometimes we just have to be kind to ourselves and say, we did the best we could in those circumstances at that time. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's so beautiful, and it really touches and warms my heart when you say that, because I think one of the things about being an entrepreneur or running a business, a lot of time, we think that we have to do everything by ourselves, but in
Yeah.
fact, when you start doing things, like podcasts or something like this, like Facebook Live, you start to meet other people who have similar journey, who has similar stories, and you listen to them. It's like it makes you realize that you are not here alone. And as much as you may feel like doing business by yourself, but in fact there's hundreds and thousands and millions of people just like ourselves who's also going somewhere on that journey to be somebody and just to be visible, to actually make an impact. And I love everything that
And
you.
that's what I would say to people too if they're going through their grief. The natural response is to isolate yourself, to just tuck yourself away and just, try and get through those dark days. But actually, when you reach out, you find that people really do want to help you. They may not always understand, but they will do the best they can do at that time. And the other thing that I found really, really helpful for me was that I went and volunteered. I went and put myself out to help others, because when I was helping others, I didn't have to think about what I was going through, and it gave me a real kick. So I actually started off driving these beautiful teenagers back and forth to their opera practices. And yeah, they didn't have transport. They were often from lower socioeconomic areas. And so I would pick them up and then, take them there and take them home again. And we just had the most wonderful conversations. And then I started, helping them with, food at their practices. And then I was starting to paint sets when they were doing their putting on the opera. And you know what? And it made me realize that there are people, always there is somebody in a worse situation than yourself. And so it made me feel grateful not to lose my daughter, but to have the experience that I had. And I would highly recommend that to anybody. Just go and volunteer your time. Right now, since I've shifted to Rotorua, I volunteer for the Kiwi Coffin Club, and I'm in the painting room by myself, and I'm painting these beautiful little caskets for preemies and newborns that parents lose, and they just end up the most beautiful little. Oh, beautiful little caskets that are donated, to parents when they lose a little, preemie or stillborn, and oh gosh, fills my heart.
Yeah, yeah. It kind of remind me what you had said earlier about the gratitude. Just remembering what we still have, and just be grateful. Have
Yeah,
gratitude. Be
yeah.
thankful.
I wasn't that type of person before Tal. I was to a small degree, like I always appreciated what people did for me and what I had. But after losing Tal, I really began to think, yeah, this is a crappy thing to have had happen. But actually, I've got 18 years of wonderful, wonderful memories. 18 years of this beautiful, crazy, sassy soul who, just gave me so much to laugh and smile about and be a part of. So I really just ramped it up. And I tell you what, out of everything, I would say that that is the most life-changing thing for me, is living a life of gratitude.
Yeah. I don't know why there's a voice that's calling me to say, Helen, you're such a dork. You're
Yeah,
such a dork.
that would be Tal Kalish Southwick.
Yeah.
That would be her loud and clear, telling everybody in the world that
You're
I'm a
such a
dork.
dork. You're such a dork.
Yeah. But, look how good does that make me feel? Like,
Yeah.
rather than upset me, I just say, okay, bring on that dorkiness because, some people need to see people who are dorks.
Exactly. I'm a dork. I'll admit.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming onto the show, and I know you brought a gift. So something about the 30 minutes
Yeah,
complimentary.
definitely.
Yeah.
So what I would like to offer anybody who's listening or who listens to this on their replay, just jump on my website, which is healing, the word healing, then the number 2, the letter B, the letter U. So it all reads healing to be you at healing2bu.com. Gosh, I was just going to give you my Gmail for a moment. And jump onto my website or on Facebook. Find me on Facebook. And yeah, just message me and just say, hey, look, I heard about the free 30-minute session. And what I'll do is, I'll take you through that and, give you a quick session to see how it works. You can get to meet me and I can get to meet you. You can see whether you're comfortable with me and that, and we can go from there. There's absolutely no obligation. This is a gift that I've been given. And, as much as I make it, part of my life now, I also am really mindful to be passing it on. So if there's anybody out there who would love to try this, then hey, just hit me up, message me, be happy to connect with you.
Yay! So again, everybody, the website is healing2bu.com, and just
Yeah,
reach out to Helen. Well,
yeah.
we did a little demo, but if you'd like to know more about how she uses the emotional code and body code to help you identify and moving through life with better way. It's a better way of moving through life. So
Oh, people, I cannot describe to you just the calm you get from this. Like I had just tried so many different things and I had never had this calmness. So that's all I'm going to say. If you want your life just to flow, then give it a go.
yeah.
That rhymes. Flow, give it a go.
Yay! It rhymes. It does rhyme. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the show, Helen. It's finally great to meet you again, and I wish you the best. And I will be sending you back to the backstage if you want to just hang out for a couple minutes, and then I'll just do the wrap up on the show. Just hang out
Michelle,
one
thank
second.
you.
All right, everybody. So that was it on Helen Morris in my lounge. So join me again next time when I bring a special guest to you during our lounge hour. Hopefully you enjoyed the show, and make sure you give me a like, comment, and tell me that you're watching this as a replay, and invite more people coming into the lounge. And I will see you next time. Bye.